There doesn't seem to be a lot of respect for our neighborhood, a country neighborhood as opposed to a city neighborhood. It seems to be taken for granted by some of these fraternities who come out in the country and do these things that it's just open country and nobody's going to give a damn.
The students here live here. They are citizens of DeKalb County for 9 months out of the year. They live here for 4 years. They're just as much as citizens of this county as anyone else is.
Northern Illinois University lies in DeKalb, Illinois, a rural agricultural town of 30,000 people. From August to May, however, the city's population nearly doubles as the 25,000 university students take up residence in the community.
The presence of the students has a significant impact on the town's economy, governance, and cultural climate. From the farmer to the merchant to the student, there exists a wide range of opinion about the effects the university has on the town.
One undeniable effect the university presence has on the community is inflated rental costs.
This was probably the worst place I've ever lived, or I hope I will never live again in my entire life. It was, I moved in this summer and I found out there was already something living there, cockroaches. It was unbelievable. They were all over the kitchen, on the floor, in the bathrooms. You couldn't take a shower because of all the cockroaches. And we'd call the management, They said they'd send somebody over. They'd never send anybody over. Right across the hall from us, somebody who had lived there the semester before had left their bathtub running or something, and water just bulged out of the ceiling. And it finally just collapsed, and it ruined things that people had in storage. My roommate had a very expensive microscope that just totally got destroyed.
Did the management take care of that?
The management said that they were not liable, they were not responsible, and they would have nothing to do with replacing the equipment.
Was that the overall feeling that you got from the management?
The management was non-existent. I think they had somebody answering a phone and say, yeah, okay, and then I don't even think there was a management. Somebody just lived in New York or something that collected the money. It was the worst experience I've ever had in my life.
What was the decor of the department? Just pretty much your typical...
Your typical flea bag hotel was about what it was. It had orange carpeting that was all ripped up around the edges. Somebody like punch holes in the walls from where people had punched during parties, and they'd kind of slap some plaster on it, but you could still see where the holes was. Leaky plumbing. There was a microwave oven that was there. You know, it was one of the features microwave oven. It was like the Flintstones microwave oven. You touch it, it was horrible. Unbelievable.
Was rent steep for how big was the apartment?
It was a 2-bedroom apartment, and it was probably originally a 1-bedroom apartment, and they drew a curtain across the 1 bedroom because the bedrooms were very, very small. And the rent was $450 a month with nothing attached, no utilities.
We have some mighty fine students here, believe me. I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. But you get those, especially if they're like in their first year or second year student, which we do try to avoid. It's like, they're breaking out of home, and boy, party time, what have you. There's a lot of dollar damage in the buildings, plus the disregard for their neighbor. And it's just an absolute disregard of property even,
Well, in February when our house burned down, we were really concerned about trying to find a place to live because the prime time to be looking for property to rent is in the summertime when all the students leave town. And so we were very fortunate that we were able to find another house in the country. But prior to that, we just stumbled across a house in town in Sycamore. And it was just by pure luck. And if it would have been advertised, there would have been no way we could have gotten it. Because there's such demand for housing that people can ask whatever they want for rent. If you get 20 miles away from here, the rent drops drastically. Around the DeKalb Sycamore area, you're going to pay a premium for even the dumpiest place to live.
Start from page 1. Give it a push all the way down.
This is yours, sir.
Continue on through the whole book.
Sorry.
Okay.
DeKalb is home to university students for an average of 4 years. Voting privileges are a source of tension between the established community and the student population.
This is, again, a temporary community. The impact of one vote multiplied by a charismatic politician into a larger number of votes, again, as a temporary community. This person is not maybe going back to Hinsdale. He probably can't afford to live there. But if there is a problem, he still usually would be a registered voter. He has grown up through the public school system, probably in the community that he's left, and I think those are the places he should be looking to express his political values in a vote situation, rather than in a really temporary community of 4 to 5 years at the most, of someplace he's not going to be after that period of time.
I was going to have an place absentee ballot, but I felt that it's more convenient to just register here and vote. But I can understand how they would feel that it's not fair, because I mean, we basically probably, this isn't even affecting us, and we probably basically don't even know their candidates. We probably know our candidates in our own hometown better.
I think it's easier to keep up with the local politics here because we're not home very often, so can't really keep up with it there.
And so you feel that
Yeah, so I read the papers here, and I've kept up with the races here. We've both been working for the campaigns for the local candidates, so we've helped, actually help the local candidates.
I think students have absolutely no business voting on local issues like referendums or anything that has to do with taxpayer issues, where it makes a difference in how much a taxpayer is going to have to pay, because they virtually are not taxpayers. And I'm very strong against that. I think that they have absolutely no business whatsoever having anything to do with the local issues, unless they plan to stay in this area or they are landowners.
Landowners,
exactly.
right.
The elections could be swayed potentially by a entire campus block voting as one block, either 25,000 students voting as Democrats or 25,000 students voting Republican. As it goes, campus more often than not votes with the citizens here in DeKalb County. More often than not, the citizens here in DeKalb County vote Republican, and so does the campus. What I have to say to that is the students here live here. They are citizens of DeKalb County for 9 months out of the year. They live here for 4 years. They're just as much as citizens of this county as anyone else is. They don't necessarily pay taxes, but certainly the money of their parents from tuition goes in to the county here. And so economically, they have just as much a right to vote here as well.
Segregation between the students and the townspeople is evident in DeKalb's cultural climate.
There's very much a variety of people, and you can have fun no matter where you go. As far as, other bars are concerned, they cater, to what they hear. Bars like, you go out a little bit further downtown, you go to Rogers Tap, stuff like that. It's basically, the same thing as Otto's. It's just, they cater to a different crowd, and in order to be successful, they work out whatever it takes. And basically, that's Otto's theme. Rogers Tap has, the towny crowd. With the Jimmy Buffett or what have you, with the jukebox.
I think it depends on your age group, and I think it's your maturity level. If you're 35 and afraid to grow up, then you go and you hit the McCabe's or the Ottos, or but if you're 35 and don't really like the loud music and the body-to-body people, you go to a different establishment.
I think there's still kind of a strong separation between the students and the town. There's been a few things, but even you look at social events, and they're always almost mutually exclusive.
The use of alcohol is, I think, probably one of the biggest problems with the students. And the thing that distresses me is walking downtown on, say, a Monday morning or a Sunday morning, and with the broken glass along the main street in the on the sidewalks.
What are you guys doing? Look at that line.
They're going to have some bands out here. They provided power. They also provided insurance waivers because there were going to be a large number of kids out here from the college. They arranged for bus service from the Husky line so that we didn't have a million cars parked out here, creating a hazard and making a mess of the property. Again, it took about 4 or 5 days to get the pole barn prepared for the event. 1 day to hold it. There were some traffic problems, but they were manageable. But again, it took 2 or 3 weeks for them to come out and finish their commitment, which was cleaning up the property and returning it to its original state.
Best problem of all. This will be our, what, 6th year, I think, with them. We've always had them. It's not that big of a deal. Enjoy them. Pardon? Normally they're easier to handle after they're drunk.
Well, we moved out here in 1986 from suburban Hinsdale area, basically to get away from suburbia and return to nature, if you will. We were contacted by one of the fraternity houses, Lambda Chi Alpha. They wanted to build a float out here for the '86 homecoming. My big concern was, you know, would there be any level of control on all of the people that would be out here? And number two, when the project was completed, it was a requirement that the property be cleaned up and returned to its normal state. I was given assurances on both of those issues that they would not be a problem. The former issue was not a problem. They conducted themselves very well during the time of the construction of the float. There were no problems of any kind. Alcohol was at a minimum. It was just a good construction effort, and I was very pleased with that. It took about 2.5 weeks to build the float, 1 day for the parade, and unfortunately it sort of fell apart from there because it took about 7 weeks to get the place cleaned up. I had to personally make a number of trips, a number of telephone calls to the president and the key members of Lambda Chi, asking them, you know, when are you going to come over and get rid of this thing and clean up the property and all of that. We are nothing more than resources to these people, and we will be told whatever we need to be told to get access to the facilities, and that there really is no desire or intent to follow through. And because of that, we are simply no longer offering our facility to any of the fraternity houses.
In a town where there is both an agricultural and a university subculture, some conflict is inevitable.
The conflict in the DeKalb community has existed since Northern Illinois University opened its doors in 1899. Has there been any progress over the past 89 years? Can there be a resolution?
I don't think there's as much tension between students and townspeople as there is between students and NIU's administration and the way they run things. Even as a student, I felt the townspeople would be more willing to help me as a student than NIU was to help me as a student. Just things from parking to health insurance, and it seemed like everything you did was a battle.
The main problem is the people who don't like the students don't know them that well. You know, majority of students I've had in classes are nice kids.
Probably the most significant effect NIU has is as an employer to a large number of people that live in the community.
I'm glad the students are here. I would rather have them here than not have them here, you know, just because of their economic impact on the community, and not just the students, but the total university.
Relations between the town and the students had always been pretty cordial before Kent State. And during Kent State, we had riots here in DeKalb. And shop owners in downtown DeKalb were literally sitting in their unlit stores with shotguns, ready to shoot any student who broke a window. And to me, that was the turning point.
Oh, I think there's been a conservative trend in the country in the last few years, and I think that things have calmed down a little bit because of that conservative trend.
I think that any problems that come, any perceived problem of town-gown relations is just incidents from these kind of isolated incidents from these people that I refer to as beyond the, you know, the normal distribution.
Church bell softly chime in a melody sustained. It's a long road to Canaan on Bleecker Street.
Where should I find me a good house to live? One-story house. My wife really can't climb up too many flights of stairs. And she wants just a plain house where it's one-level house.
It's not just the individual. We're seeing families being pushed out in the street, children that are being part of the homeless. Now that certainly is not, that is indicative to me of a problem of the national government, the federal government, the state government, certainly the local government, not putting adequate funding in housing. We got a housing shortage. That certainly is a problem. And we've got one here in DeKalb.
There are 2 to 3 million homeless in this country. 2 to 3 million people are homeless. 50% of these people are under 21. 50%. 50% of those people, so 25% of the total, are under the age of 5. So my husband, who's a mathematician, walked me through this. That tells me that there are 750,000 homeless preschoolers in this country.
Mark's 8. No, Sissy's 3. And Mark's in middle of the childhood. And Carl is in junior high. And Joseph's in 7th grade.
Once you're on the street and are homeless, especially if you're a family, it becomes almost impossible to get out of that situation, to come up with the up to $1,000 that it takes to get into an apartment.
I might not have a home right now, but I know that God cares for me and for my husband and for my 2 children who are at my mom's that I'm only allowed to see once a week because I do not have a home for them or enough income. And right now I'm pregnant with my youngest is 5. I'm expecting another because I believe human life is more important than any money in the world. It's one of my favorite things to do, to go when I do community education, to just throw it out to the people who are there, to say, describe to me the typical homeless person. And invariably, I get one of several myths. These people are deadbeats. These people are criminals. They're mentally deranged. They are certainly dangerous. Almost inevitably, they are too lazy to work. And some people have actually chosen their homelessness.
I personally have friends who became homeless recently. They have master's degrees, both of them. They are very able people. They also have a new baby and another small child. And a fire occurred in their house, a fire that was later connected to a homicide. And it became impossible for them to stay in their home. And it has taken them 6.5 weeks to find a new place.
Most of my life I've worked as a certified nursing assistant. I've had 2 years of nurses training, but I did not graduate. So I don't have the diploma to earn the high wage that it takes to pay these rents that they have. I earn $3.50 an hour even though I have 2 to 3 years of college education.
There are people who do fit the myths of the homeless, who are perhaps substance abusers, who are perhaps mentally ill, who very well might be homeless forever, for the rest of their lives. And I think that's because of deinstitutionalization. These people were released from the mental institutions perhaps and released to nothing, released to the street. And they really need custodial care that's simply not available.
My particular case, I was using drugs. My alcoholic counselor found this place for me. Keep me off the street until I get into my rehabilitation.
Were you on the streets?
More or less. My mother had to put me out because she was scared for me to be in the house, you know, things like that. And I basically was on the street because I stayed high all the time, so I stayed on the go.
One of the things that I really like about PADS in DeKalb that is different than programs in large cities is that we are the organization that fills up all the cracks that you hear about in the cliche of falling through the cracks. When we hear of somebody that really needs our help, but they don't fit the criteria of one of the established governmental agencies, we don't have to say, I'm sorry, you don't meet our criteria. We just go help them. Guests would start asking, can you bring in the classified ads so I can look for a job? Do you know of places where there are jobs open? And of course I keep track of when I see signs on stores or restaurants that help wanted. I keep track of those and tell various guests what I know of that's available.
He took me all over this town looking for jobs. And he found one friend he knows down at the factory. He says, all you gotta do is sign this application. And so I showed him the application, and he says, show up Monday morning. And I showed up Monday morning, and I got the job that way.
Yeah, I just like to walk around. I mean, I like being homeless, doesn't bother me at all. And if I get a job, I get a job. Like, you don't, you know.
Sometimes being streetwise translates into being willing to be violent. And there's none of that here. This is our 3rd year, and we've yet to call the police, ever, except to come over and have dinner. I mean, never for violent reasons, for reasons that we couldn't handle. Sometimes it's a very common ploy for a person who might be new to town, for instance, to, wait till a policeman is looking at you and then steal something so that they'll arrest you so you can go inside. And they know that that's a trick, so I get calls at night saying, we don't really want to arrest this guy. What he really needs is shelter. Do you have room? And they'll bring him over. So.
It's like, they're just trying to, get us for, busting bottles on the sidewalks. And it's not really us. It's basically the party. It's a party town. If bottles get busted on the sidewalks, they get busted on the sidewalks. Or if there's a lot of people in front of the corner of the street, I mean, just loitering, you're just having a good time, there's a lot of people.
Rita Tewksbury has played marvelously into my hands this morning with her article in the Northern Star. These people are vagrants. They are just obstructing business. 2 to 3 of them are obstructing business, and they should be arrestable because they have no legal place to sit, no legal place to go to the bathroom, no legal place to be. So she wants to throw them in jail. I wish she was here.
And I think the most valuable service that we provide is not the food and the shelter, but the place for them to socialize, a place for them to come and discuss and feel like they belong to a family group. And the shelter inhabitants, the guests and the volunteers, do become a large extended family, complete with squabbles and support for one another.
It beats being on the street, not knowing where you're going to go, and especially if you have kids. Yeah.
If I don't go, I'm gonna stick it out no matter what, you know, no matter what. I have to. I'm too old, I'm getting too old. Can't handle it no more. You know, the way I was saying, you know, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Days, an endless stream of cigarettes, magazines. And each town looks the same to me. The movies and the factories, and every stranger's face I see.
I mean, because you have to leave and go, and it sucks. Because about 7:30, usually go in, and about 9 o'clock, or, no, it's like social time, at 10 o'clock, lights out. Then at 7:30, everyone leaves. So you do what you have to do and quit.
They give you breakfast before you?
Yeah, it's at 6 o'clock.
So how long have you been in this situation, Jack?
Oh, wow. Probably about 2.5
years.
Yeah.
So I figure a year from now I will be on my own. I don't know if I'll stay here that long, but I could if I had to. It just depends.
Take my arms that I might reach you, but
While this may be your particular issue, there's other people out there that are crying, what are we going to do about drugs? There's other people out there going to start crying, what are we going to do about infrastructure? The roads, the bridges, as we watch, you know, the infrastructure crumble before us. What are you going to do about wastewater treatment? What are you going to do about sanitary? What are you going to do about water? You know, what are you going to do about airport? What are you going to do about, you know, clean air, and on and on and on. So certainly these issues are going to have a joint response from the federal, state, and local government.
And now to compound the problem. During the 9 months from January to September, we used all of our $10,000 grant and could easily, very easily, have used twice that much. I saw many people that the little bit we were able to help them only was a drop in the bucket towards what they really needed. For the next 12 months, our grant has been cut in half. We now have only $5,000 for the next 12 months instead of $10,000 for 9 months we had last year.
What is very clear and is true across the board among shelter providers is that the need increases faster than our ability to meet the need. Last year, we quadrupled in size over the previous year.
You're always going to have homeless, always. There's always going to be someone that wants to be homeless. There's people that are just going to wander around and don't want a permanent address. You can't do anything about that. That's the way they want to live. You have to accept it. But there's other people who really don't want to be homeless and they're stuck in that situation.
I wish I was homeward bound. Home, where my thoughts escaping. Home, where my music's playing. Home, where my love lies waiting silently for me.
Well, I like it here at PADS, but like I say, I want to just get a house, get back with my family. And my wife will be happy when I do get back with my family, because she said to me last night when she came and brought my billfold, she says, I want my husband back. Because she says, come outside a minute. And I went outside and she was crying, because she just misses me so much. And I just want to get a house where she can call it her own.
You're gonna miss her too, don't you?
So I just want to get a house and get back with my family.